Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. Well, good afternoon again, and many thanks to Kelly Centra at the Mountaintop for their support. We started with 16 in the senior, 16 in the senior B. It got down to 12 in the intermediate B, and 10 in the junior. We're now down to the last 4 in the championship, and we're going to look forward to that very, very shortly. But first of all, we're going to look back on the action of last week. We have a new face in the studio with us today. Chris didn't make the cut. It's nitty-gritty time now. It's squeaky bum time, so we wanted a top-class panel for you, and as I say, Chris was turned over a few times and kicked the ball into the goalkeeper's hand, so John Haran says he has to go, and that's what we had to do. I'm delighted to say that we're joined by the sponsor of the championships, Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, look after all the championships, and the Donegal captain is here with us, winner of 3 Dr. Maguires. Michael, you're very welcome.
Good to be here.
Good to have you in studio. I'm a bit weary today because I've got St Eunans, Termon and Glenswilly here, and on the way up here I was thinking it's a bit like the Bermuda Triangle, only worse perhaps. So we've kept Michael right at the side there, away from John, and hopefully Francie will be able to mediate there in the middle. Right, let's look at the senior championship. We made predictions here last week. Everybody got it right. Kilcar, St Eunans, Naomh, Conaill and Gweedore all got through. Kilcar pretty comfortably, St Eunans very comfortably, Naomh, Conaill not as comfortably, and Gweedore, certainly Francie, under a lot of pressure. Bundoran gave them all they asked. 8 minutes to go, 8 points down. It looked to be all over. Did Gweedore take their foot off the pedal? Did they make too many changes? What happened to them? Because they could have lost that game.
Definitely so, Charlie. Listen, they're 8 points up, 8 minutes to go, and probably they're home and hose, but listen, football's never over to the final whistle, and Bundoran the goal changed it when they got the goal, with about 4 minutes to go, and then they won the next 2 kickouts, and they got the breaks and kicked 2 scores and brought it to extra time. And listen, post Gweedore, they'll have to fight another day, but Bundoran, probably, they're disappointed with the display in the extra time as well.
Yeah. Michael, I made the point to somebody, Gweedore weren't hugely impressive against St Eunans. They weren't hugely impressive against St Michael's. They certainly weren't hugely impressive against Bundoran, but they're in the semi-finals. If you were in the Gweedore camp, would you be happy with what's gone, or just be happy with the fact that you have a chance of winning the championship again? You're in the last 4.
Well, I suppose coming off the back of last year and the great success not only did they have in Donegal and then going on to Ulster, it was, I suppose, getting into this season was maybe that little bit slower. The quality they have throughout the team is there and is very, very evident, and there was glimpses of it coming there in that Bundoran game.
Yeah.
You still forget that they were that 8 points up at a stage. They were cruising, they were going well, they were in a semi-final, and you would have been saying, geez, it was a very impressive performance. But I suppose that the last 10, 12 minutes, in that normal time really was, I suppose, a thing that they'll be worried about. But for them, going into this week now, going into Kilcar, they have the 2 motivations. They have the motivation to try and put what went wrong against Bundoran, and also probably maybe even going to this game, maybe a slight underdogs against Kilcar for all. So knowing them players and knowing what they come through, they don't want last season to be one season wonder. They want to push it on this year and this week. And I'd expect a huge performance from going into this week.
Yeah. What do you make of them, John? Gweedore?
Charlie, I thought they were very good in spells. I thought they started off very well. I thought Michael Carr was very good for them early on. Powerful runs. Just watching the setup, Kevin Cassidy and Eamon Collins stayed right down in front of the keeper, right nearly standing on his toes, leaving a lot of space for them to run into. And then Cassidy would make his burst late out to get the ball. You could see the telepathic play between him and Eamon McGee. Eamon McGee coming soloing up the middle, big hand pass in front of Cassidy. Got a few balls, laid them off. I was impressed with them, Charlie, for a good while, but as Michael says, the gloss came off the performance in the last 10 minutes. But even at that, Charlie, like the first 5 or 6 minutes of extra time, they just blew Bundoran away. They scored them 6 points in a row. All right, some of their big guns, maybe Owen McNeedus, we put away 2 lovely penalties and that, but, probably thought they could get more out of him. Darrell Wheel, maybe a wee bit, got on a lot of ball, but maybe they want a bit more from him going forward, kick a few scores. Keane Mulligan was injured, carrying a hamstring injury, so he's a bit of a loss for them. But in spells, Charlie, I thought they were very, very good, Probably, Charlie, a wee bit of complacency when they were, throughout the game, they were always ahead. They were always not comfortable. Bundoran were always, 4, 5, 6, 7 points behind. And it's hard. they made a few changes, maybe with 15 minutes to go. Maybe took the eye off the ball a wee bit. Definitely took the eye off the ball for the goal because they were all back on the line and they didn't get it, and your man stuck it in the net. Fair play them, and that gave Bundoran the impetus. And once Bundoran got the wee bit of got the fire in their bellies for the last few minutes, they had them on the rack. And as we say, if it had gone on for another minute or two, you never know what was going to happen. Listen, they got to extra time and then they just blew Bundoran away again. I know Bundoran got the late goal again in the extra time, but at the same time, Jerry, the game, after that, that's of a start in extra time. Gweedore looked very comfortable. But Jerry, people then were saying that the way Bundoran ran at them down the middle, we Timmy, and them boys, we got a lot of frees, ran at Gweedore, one frees. Gary Clancy was excellent from the free. So, from Kilcar's point of view, they'll be looking at that and thinking that that's definitely a way to hurt Gweedore, and we all know what running power Kilcar have.
Michael, they looked vulnerable when Bundoran started running at them. They didn't appear to have any answer to what was going on. Once Bundoran got the momentum to go, they scored 1-5 without reply, and Gweedore were all over the place.
In credit to Bundoran, it's a team that we would have been very familiar with in Clonsully, playing them in various championships throughout the years, and even in playing them in leagues throughout the years. Yeah. They're all very good footballers. They're all fit and they're all very, very quick, and they've that kind of a three dynamic going throughout their whole team, and I suppose Jamie Brennan, he epitomises in terms of being fit and a very, very good footballer and very, very quick. Tommy Gavrov, he really brought it, and say Gary Clancy with all the scores that he got, so that, you look across that whole team, they can all really, really play football. So they really hung in there, but the 8-point deficit was just a huge turnaround. The energy they expended in that last 10 minutes, was huge for the see. Gweedore, in fairness, they made 4 subs to start extra time. Yeah. Each one of them contributed in the scoreboard in that extra time period.
Brought boys back on that they'd taken off, Michael.
Shows you, I suppose, that the depth maybe of their squad, they were able to bring them boys back in. Eamon Collin came back in, kicked 4 points. Michael Carroll, I think, maybe came back in, even off the bench, got the point. Nisha came back, got the point. Big contributions from players, and it's probably at that stage when Doran's legs had just been completely ran off them, because the incredible effort from them for that whole game. You know,
big wake up call. Maybe the best thing could happen for Mervyn O'Donnell and Michael Boyle on the sideline to take into training this week, Francie, to say to them, guys, we nearly lost that game.
Definitely so. And listen, pose in fairness, you want to go a wee bit further than that. I think the Warnings were there. The 3 games that they've played. Apart from our drag game, they haven't been influent as they've been last year, and maybe it's second year syndrome, whatever, maybe it's not all going together, but listen, they're still on there, and listen, they're still a dangerous animal going forward.
Yeah. They're going to meet Kilcar now, Michael. A lot of people from the start of the championship said, it'll be a great final, Kilcar and Gweedore. That's not going to happen. It's a semi-final now. Probably the best 2 teams in the county. Certainly Kilcar, unbeaten in 2019. But, and I know you were working with RTE on Saturday night as well, should they be concerned about that first 20 minutes of the second half against Killybegs when they didn't? Mark McHugh said to me after the game, quite rightly, listen, we won the game by 9 points, fair enough, but they didn't score for 19 points, so unlike them.
It is so unlike them. I suppose you look across their whole pitch too, from defence right up through their midfield and attack. They have attacking power everywhere, and they were starting to really, really piece it together throughout that game, apart from that period of the second half. But going on at half time, there was a feeling there in the ground that the game was fairly gone. Kilcar had done enough in that period where they had to go and win the game in the first half. They went and won the game. The 2 McLeans, I say, Paddy, Ryan, Owen, they went and done enough. Steve McBrady came on, kicked a couple of very good points too. And when it really then was put up against them for them last 10 minutes, they stood up again, and they just really put it into 6th gear for them last couple of minutes again. Michael Higdey came back on, just there's a sense of real just comfort about everybody in the team, and he kind of portrayed that everywhere. Kieran McGinley stepped up, kicked a couple of points there near the end. So I think the way Kilcar are, having won it 2 years ago, gotten very close to an Ulster Championship, seeing Gweedore getting there last year, being without Paddy and Ryan last year in the championship, I think there's a sense of determination there to put it right. And maybe what could have been if Paddy and Ryan were available last year, maybe they might have looked upon it, maybe they could have put it up against Gweedore if they got a chance. And they're undefeated this year, and it's an incredible feat so far for them. And it's just going to be a brilliant game now come Sunday.
I mean, it's been an incredible season for Kilcar. We can talk about the league and the importance of it, but to go through any league unbeaten, John, is fantastic. They have been the most impressive team in the championship as well, but this is the biggest test of the year now, taking on Gweedore in the circumstances we talked about Gweedore not producing their best, but they're still there.
Absolutely, Terry. And the thing about Gweedore is now they've got the experience of winning last year and winning Ulster, and they're a very physical team, Charlie, and they like to bully you and they like to get in there, and that's in their makeup. And when they're on top, they're going to put the foot on you. So Charlie, it's an intriguing game. You know what I mean? Kilcar are small and fast. I know Gweedore have a lot of pace too, but Gweedore are very physical. They're big. Eamon McGee, Neil McGee, Ginger there. Niall Friel. They're all strong. So they're going to be. If there's no hangover from Gweedore, if they're not too tired from last year, we don't know that yet because they haven't really got tested. Although Bundoran, all right, ran them close at the end. But this is going to be the big test now for Gweedore. Where are they at, and can they match this flying mad pace like Kilcar have? Like I know I spoke a few times here that a wet day, could upset Kilcar, but even on Saturday night, Terry, they were brilliant on the wet ball. They're just so comfortable on the ball, running, hand passing. In the first half, they kicked some brilliant points from out the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Left foot, right foot, didn't matter who got them. Taking the right option at the right time, and players, coming from all angles. And even, we would have thought that they're sometimes a wee bit small and not that physical at midfield. But you see, they've got, they've got everything planned for. Like Mark McHugh gets up so high just to break a ball down, and they're all coming in underneath. If it's not, it's all, they've got a whole off to a tee, Charlie. So, and then they're breaking, and when they have you on the back foot, it's very hard to tackle them from behind, Charlie. Unless you're, set up to meet them, you're chasing them wee small bodies, and if you go near them at all, very often it's going to be a free. So, Gweedore, but it's going to be a fascinating battle, Charlie.
Absolutely.
But something to look forward to. But probably Kilcar probably still slight favourites to be able to beat them.
If you were Gweedore, how would you be shaping up against St Eunans? They were very defensive. Against St Michael's, now no playing conditions were difficult and all that, taking that all into consideration. Everybody tells you can't go toe to toe. You said that often in here about Kilcar, Francie. You can't afford to go toe to toe. Are we going to see a dure defensive game with mass defences and maybe a 9-8-6 or a 9-7 scoreline?
Well, first of all, I think, listen, we're playing Kilcar. I think most teams are beat before they play them. You have to be brave against them. That means this weekend, Gweedore have to, first of all, in the kickouts, they have to be brave and push up and be aggressive on the Kilcar kickout. I think that's a team where teams can get at Kilcar as their kickout. I think their keeper's there to be got at. I think if Gweedore press up, and Gweedore have been doing that this year, that they're going with 11 and 12 on a press and a kick out. I think on their own kick out, Gweedore as well, getting the percentage of that there up high as well, keeping the ball. The big thing against Kilcar is if you have the ball, they can't score, and this is what teams are running into contact and getting turned over, and this is where most of their scores are counter-attacking. So to beat Kilcar this week, kick-outs are a big thing, definitely trying to win as much possession from your kick-out and their kick-out, plus then when you get the ball, that you don't give away the ball, that you get a shot off or the ball goes wide, because if you get turned over, they're so quick in their counter attack. Yeah. They'll just clean you. Like I was just going through it there, they're averaging 24 points in their 4 games. They've only conceded 9. So Gweedore's going to have to be clinical up front, but at the other end they're going to have to be very, very, very. Listen, you away a free, Paddy's going to score. Mark McHugh's been putting them over all year. So that side of things is going to come to Gweedore, a big, massive game, because Kilcar are coming strong favourites. And listen, for Gweedore to beat them, they're going to have to keep the ball, I think. And anytime they have the ball, they're going to have to get the score. And then hope when they get the kick-outs coming in, they will win the kick-out and get the percentages up on that. Because the only way of beating them, it's like Dublin, like you just have to keep the ball off them.
Yeah. Michael Glenswally managed it in the final a couple of years ago. Kilcar were red hot favourites. He's frustrated them. He's made it difficult for them. He's had plenty of people back. He's got just enough scores to beat them. They are beatable in those circumstances because they do get frustrated in a situation like that. They showed more patience against Glenties, or were forced to do it then the following year to win a low scoring game. But really they want to play an open game. They want to be attacking. Yeah,
they do. And I suppose, everybody will point to that in 2016, but, even though we did win, it was still a 1 point game. We rode our luck for a large majority of that game too. But, going into this game, you do expect two teams. I think they'll expect the two teams to go out and not want to lose it.
Yeah.
rather than going out and try and go after it and win it. I think two teams will really try and shut up and try and counteract each other's strengths, which is tends to be their quick attacks, and they'll try and negate them as much as they can. I suspect Gweedore to potentially sit on, try and do that, hit them on the break, and I suppose Kilcar to do the same, try and sit off. Hopefully Gweedore come up with a turnover, and as I say, even there to see it at that pitch level on Saturday night, the pace at which Kilcar go when they go in numbers, it is something to be
Scary,
to be looked at, you know. And just that's the way it'll plan it out. Like, I know that mightn't be what everybody wants to hear, but I would say that's the way it'll plan it. But listen, isn't the game I think the whole county's been looking for the last 2 years, to see the two teams at this stage of a championship who have probably gone as far as teams have gone in the county here. And I suppose two teams that have given belief to the whole of the county that, you know, not only county success can be got at, but, you know, provincial success can be got too if you can go there. So I think it's the game we're all looking forward to, and you know, may the best team win.
Okay. And just on that, you know, like people have this perception about Kilcar that they're attacking team. They only play with two up. But the reason is because they're so counter-attacking, so paced with it. They just get the bodies up so quick up the pitch. They'll only play with two up, and people will go back with the ball sometimes when they'll get set up. But when they're going to turnover, they've just people just coming out of everywhere, and it looks like they're playing with more bodies up front than they actually are. And Gweedore play with kind of the exact same with the two Cassidy and Eamon Collum or whoever it may be. The last they just play in the full forward line, and they've massive bits of space there. But sometimes Gweedore don't kick it. You know, so but it'll be interesting to see how Kilcar, will they play a sweeper or will they just leave the big pocket of space?
Right, let's call it John.
I have a sneaky feeling Gweedore will come out on top, Charlie.
Okay, Francie.
I think Gweedore will win too.
Michael.
This is a good one, alright. Put me under pressure now.
No pressure.
Can I say draw now? Is there replay in
You
this
can,
one?
yeah.
I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be 1-2 score game, to be brutally honest. Just think there's bound to be a kick in Gweedore, so I'll probably go 3 for Gweedore.
Okay, all 3 for Gweedore. St Eunans finally came good in the scoring, John. Maybe they were listening to us and took some of our advice, but it was a different sort of a St Eunans. Milford will be disappointed because I don't want to be unfair to them, but they were naive in the way they approached the game, I thought, because first time at that level in a quarter final, they had to stay in the game as long as they could, and they were out of the game within 15 or 20 minutes.
Could say they were out of the game maybe after a minute, Charlie, after the first goal, but I know that was maybe too early for the game to be over. But yeah, Milford probably backed themselves too much, Charlie, because maybe they listened to, I'm not saying it was hype, but listened to enough people that thought it would be tight, and me included, I thought it would be tight, you know. But the big pitch, Charlie, seemed to play into St Eunan's hands. There was a lot of space there, and as you say, Milford were probably a wee bit naive because they didn't set themselves up at all to stay in the game. They went man to man, and as soon as the first goal went in, Charlie, you know, the floodgates nearly opened, and it was just too much space and too easy. They never got a hand on us St Eunan's forwards, Charlie. I was standing beside Sean the Decent, and he was going off his head. He was saying like not even no hits going in at all. They weren't even getting close to put a glove on them, Charlie, to stop them or stop the run or anything. So you know, whether they got caught in the headlights, Charlie, I know it was on TV, maybe that caught them, but you know, they'd be very disappointed with the performance. But from St Eunan's point of view, Charlie, was very good. You know, the boys looked very sharp, and you know, they got a lot of scores and took their scores. You know, the second goal was a bit lucky with James Kelly shooting for a point, but John McGeehan took it well. But you know, they got a lot of space, Charlie, and you can't think that St Eunan's will get the same space at the weekend. But you know, maybe on the other side, Charlie, in the first half, I thought we were a wee bit standoffish in the defence. You know, I know Cian Baird and Luke Baird kicked, and you know, Chippy got a kick. I know they were good points, but I thought our boys were just standing a wee bit far off them and let them get the shots in. And I think too, Charlie, on the Milford kick out in the first half. Now I know we scored 3-12 in the first half. I thought Milford got a lot of kick outs away. As Francie said, in the first game St Eunan's played against Gweedore, they were going with this diamond formation to kind of mark the space, what suited the Gweedore thing, but the Milford, McGilligan seemed to be getting away a lot of kickouts out to the terrace side and over to the other side in front of the dugout. Too much for my liking, Charlie. So I think, you know, it's something the boys need to improve on for the weekend.
Yeah, bit of a surprise there, Francie Sean the Decent giving out about not enough hits going in. There's a surprise for us on the podcast today.
Big surprise.
You probably agree with him. There wasn't enough hits going in because they weren't getting near them, really, were they?
No, they didn't put a glove on them at all, you know. And listen, it's probably disappointing for Milford, you know. top the group and got out of the group, and probably looking to go forward and trying to get a good result. Plus, they thought themselves, like we all thought maybe it would be a tight game, but St Eunans just blew them clean out of the water. The first goal, like, they got that very early doors, and from there on, there's only looked only 1-1er. And I know Mulford and a wee purple patch, and they kicked three in the bounce, but just whenever St Eunans just upped to the level again, and I thought Niall O'Donnell was just unbelievable. I thought his movement, his just use of the ball, his scoring, just every time he did the ball, it looked like he was just going past people, like, for fun, like they weren't even there. And then it brought everybody else into the game, kind of looking at him, saying what he's able to do it. So, even Owen McGeehan, the 2 goals he got, the second goal was just like unbelievable. Put it in the top corner, like, it was brilliant.
Yeah. What is your sense of it, Michael, watching it on Saturday night, the game?
I suppose we were going into the weekend with 4 quarter-finals, 4 favourites, 4 underdogs.
Yeah.
And we were kind of thinking, is there an underdog going to step up and potentially put it up to one of these teams? Bundoran probably did in the end. But if you look at each of the 4 games, just looking through it there, and each of the underdogs conceded a goal in the first half of each of those games.
Yeah.
In Championship football, anything, and you're looking to create an upset, you just cannot afford to do that against the quality of these sides. St Eunans, Gweedore, you just can't do it.
Yeah.
They're
going to build on that.
They're going to build on it, like, in each of those games, maybe Bundoran they got back into it, but in each of those games they got a goal, and especially in the Mulford one, when once the goal, 3 goals in the first half, once the first one, and like it was you were playing catch up all the time. And Eunans are very, very good, I must say. It's one of the, I've only seen them a few times this year, but they have a good identity about them. They seem to have really gone with youth on it. Huge pace around the team. Skill level very good of them top 6 players, and I suppose we went into the game and saying, could anybody support Niall O'Donnell? That was fairly quashed.
The young fellas played very well on Saturday night. We're not going to name them individually. We all know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's the best they've played, Michael.
Yeah.
They weren't effective in the previous 3 games. They really came into their own on Saturday night. Was that as much to do with the way the game was going and the opposition rather than anything else?
Probably, as I say, it was a good platform to go and do it. They mightn't have been marked as tightly as they've all been in other games, but on the flip side, the confidence they can gain from that will be massive. And I suppose then, from a Mulford point of view, it just looked like, obviously it's they're up at seniors, the first time getting through to a quarter final. I remember being there with Glen Sully. We got through to a final against Eunans in 2007, and you went in with all the great will in the world, but it's just some things start to go against you. When they go against you, you don't have the experience and the know-how to just try and stay in the game a wee bit.
Yeah.
And it just seemed that the game gradually got away from them from that very, very first goal, and it got away from them just too quickly then. And realistically, even by halfway through the first half, the game was gone. So for them,
They're not going to get that type of space on Saturday or Sunday, against Naomh Conaill, battle-hardened team, championship team. Yeah. They're going to make it very difficult for them. Yeah,
notorious rivalry. It's probably one of the biggest rivalries over the last 10 years here in the county, and you definitely wouldn't expect it. And from Naomh Conaill and Glenties, after seeing that, I suppose, in action, and seeing that up live and seeing that up very, very close, they'll be putting a plan in place and a plan in action. And likewise, from looking at them in the Glenfin game, which I'm sure we'll hear about, they were still fairly, withdrawn in terms of the way they played, and they played fairly defensive. They played the 2 to 3 boys up top, but everybody else was very standoffish and very defensive. And you'd suspect, based off that, for them to really try and, keep trying to take Niall out of the game and mark him as best they can, and really try and put the pressure on the likes of Owen McGeehan and James Kelly and Dara coming from the back, Dara Mulgrew, and see, can you really perform that again this next week, Yeah.
Naomh Conaill, Glenfin, we did say here last week, I think Chris said if there's going to be an upset, that might be the one. There was only 4 points, and at the end I didn't see that game, Francie. Was it a 4-point game, or was it more?
No, it was probably a 4-point game, but Glenfin got off to a brilliant start, and I think the goal, as Michael alluded to there, the goal in the first half, kind of really. So kind of sucker blow for Glenfin. They were doing well, and then when the goal came on, then Glenties got kicked on 2 points as well, and they got their noses in front, and after that they never came from behind, or never had to fall behind. So no, listen to what he called Glenfin did their best, to keep themselves in the game, but just couldn't get it back. There was always that 3-4 point, and Naomh Conaill just saw the game out, with their experience. Glenfin kind of set up, and the last 5 or 6 minutes, you could see, Glenfin had to come out because we were 4 points down, but they didn't come out, and Glenties just kept keeping the ball, and just seeing the clock out, and just listen, Naomh Conaill, they've been there before, and they knew how to see the game out.
Yeah, interesting about Naomh Conaill. If we look at the group, I was at the Killybegs game. They beat Killybegs by 6 points, comfortable enough. They gave Dunlow a fair whacking on a bad night down in Dunlow. Just squeezed through against McCool's by 3 points. Just squeezed through against Glenfin by 4 points. All teams that they were expected to beat, John. Now they're coming up against a team that, well, as Michael said, there's a long-held rivalry between the two of them in a county semi-final. Have they done enough in the championship to suggest that we should make them favourites for this game?
I think so, Cherry, because at the start of the year, I don't think much has changed. Kilcar, Gweedore, Naomh Conaill, and it was a toss-up between St Eunans or St Michael's Glen Swilly to be the fourth team. Yeah. And I still honestly think St Eunans are the fourth team out of the four. I do think they've closed the gap. I think they've improved, but I still put Naomh Conaill ahead of us, Jerry. I know we've had a long rivalry this last 10-15 years, since probably 2005, so that's 12 years or coming to 13 years, but it's kind of a new team, Charlie, you know what I mean, for the two teams, especially St Eunan's team is a lot of young, they wouldn't have that same history or, I was going to say hate there for a minute. I think that's too strong.
Too strong a word.
But one time there, Charlie, in the back then, they were.
There's no love lost
back in them days with McGuinness and John Gildea and that and Devaney. There were great days with some battles with them, but that's kind of moved on. In fairness now to it, so there won't be that same.
Unfortunately,
same bite. Yeah, same bite.
I would say when it comes to Sunday, there'll be the same rivalry.
Rory Cavanaugh's playing, we'll expect fireworks. That's for sure. A few cards, or a few fireworks anyway. But no, Glenties are still a good team, Charlie. You know what I mean? They might be. I know what you're saying. They mightn't have set the world alight so far, but I still think they've got experience over St Eunan's. Like you look at the last few years, Charlie. They beat us in 15 in the county final. They beat us in 16 in the quarter final. They beat us in the group last year in a do or die death game for us over there. We couldn't beat them. So
they've had the upper hand
this last 4 or 5 years, Cherry. So although it's a slightly new team for St Eunan's, we'll still be we'll still be underdogs, and rightly so. But I think, Cherry, looking at the last year, the big pitch seemed to suit our boys, and they are young and they've got pace and they're fit and they're well able to run. So that could be an advantage for St Eunan's. Some people are making the point that maybe some of the Anthony Thompson's getting older.
I was just going to make that point. There's a hardcore of guys, Owen Wade, Murray Boyle.
Leo even. I know he's been around a lot. He's played
Leo's
a lot of
been there around a long time, and I'll just ask you this one, Michael. I mean, they've got young fellas coming in. There's a nice mix there, but and again, a word I've heard about Glenties and any of them I've interviewed this year have said they're hurting from the last 2 years, and they should be hurting because they didn't do themselves any justice in either of those two finals. So, are they a team with that chip on their shoulder that possibly will work to their advantage, or could it weigh them down?
No, I think in knowing them characters that you mentioned, who you're maybe saying that they're in their older bracket.
Yeah.
I was going to make that point as you've just made, getting beaten 2 county finals, and them coming back this year for the third one, potentially getting themselves into it first is the one they're going to be looking at. Yeah. They're going to be gunning for it, they really, really are. They're going to be, and I just think, they did enough in that group. They got their performances done out of the way. They got their performance out of the way against Glenfin, but they know that I think there's just that sting out of all the 4 teams that are left. The team that has the biggest motivation and the biggest kind of sting left in them, I do believe, as Glenties, along with the quality that they have that other older brigade. The younger brigade, very impressed with Jack McKelvey the weekend. Thought he was very, very good in the game. Nathan Byrne came in, big lad midfielder, scored a good point, and Charlie McGuinness on side is a dimension they've added to their game, along with Owen McGettigan, who was just really, really good.
He's a talent, isn't he?
Really impressive now, and he trained really, really well. He was up with us all of last year, and as the season was going on, the stronger and stronger he was getting, so I just think that they have a hell of a lot to play for yet this season, as do all the 4 teams, but I just think they're the one with the big sting left in them, Yeah.
Francie, is it silly to say Eunans probably are happy enough with that draw? They've avoided Kilcar and Gweedore. This is the draw they would have wanted. This is the one that they probably would have felt this would be our best chance of making the final if we draw Naomh Conaill.
I suppose, so. And then, listen, last year's game to me, probably, a lot of players played in last year's game where they got beaten, didn't get out of the group, and Eunans didn't perform that day.
Eunans were terrible.
They were terrible that day, and even for that game, that day alone, But listen, you're in a quarter final, and you don't know who you're going to get, and they'll have to prepare for Naomh Conaill best they can. But I think, going for Eunans is last week against Milford, they were able to express themselves, and you only can get confidence from that there. They were playing in a group where Gweedore and St Michael's were both defensive. Glenties, I know, were trying to be more offensive. Last week I thought out of the 3 games, their 4th game, that they started to come back into their defensive side of stuff again. They didn't play as many bodies up, but they're playing with the two big men inside, the Kieran Gallagher and Charles McGuinness. They're not going to get early ball into them, kind of high ball in and getting breaks for Romy Gilligan off that there. So we wonder how Eunans will deal with that. But the thing for me is Sean Patton's kickouts. How will Glenties deal with that? Because the Glenties want to press up on the kick out, and how do they get caught with balls over the top and stuff like that?
He will pass them out if he has to.
He'll pass them out. Like Mulford last week, just Mulford pushed up twice, and Sean Patton just cleared the press, and their units run for. Well, they got 1 goal and they could have got another goal. Yeah. So how will Glenties deal with that? And do you just let units have the kick out, or what way how they're going to deal with it? But it's going to be an interesting game. But as you go back to your question, Glenties will be thinking, this is a serious chance for them to get back into a final. They've lost to 2. We've alluded to that at the start of the year. But then Eunans, this is a new team coming through. Listen, anybody from St Eunans, they want to be in county finals. That's what they've been known for years. So they'll be looking to get into a county final as well. So it's going to be a big game.
Biggest game for Eunans for a long time. I know they've had tough games in the group, but last year they didn't manage to get out of it. This year they have, out of a difficult group. This is the biggest game the club have had for a long time, John.
For 3 or 4 years, Charlie. And the funny thing about it is, I was trying to get a few boys to confirm my stat, but I was right. Since '97, Charlie, St Eunans have played in 15 county semi-finals and they've won 13. So we have a very good record in semi-finals. We've lost plenty of finals, unfortunately, and lost plenty of quarter-finals. But in semi-finals, Charlie, Glencolmkill, Naomh Columba beat us in '98, and Ardra beat us in 2004. That's, to my knowledge, that's the only 2 we've been beaten. So for some reason, Charlie, we have a very, very good record, like 13 out of 15, some record in semi-finals. Yeah. So, I don't know if it's going to count for much the next day, Charlie, but it's something that just St Eunans seem to have on our side. Massive game for the boys, Charlie, absolutely. At the start of the year, all I was looking for was a bit of progression, and I think we've made that. But if we could beat Glenties in a county semi-final with that young team and get to a final, it'd be massive for them, Charlie, a big breakthrough for the club. So massive game for them, the biggest game in 4 or 5 years, probably since the 15 county final against Naomh Conaill. So, it's a big chance. We haven't got an awful lot of, well, we're supposed to have experience, but, Rory there and Colin done the last day, and whether they start Colin now the next day is going to be, the big question for us.
Unlikely. All right, Michael, call it.
Very, very tight again. I think Glenties will shoot it.
Okay, Francie.
I think St Eunans will shoot it. I think St Eunans and the Sean Patton and his kickouts, and I think Rory Kavanagh coming back and add another dimension to them as well. And I just think St Eunans will.
Okay, John.
My heart says St Eunans, Charlie, but my head says Naomh Conaill.
Okay. Split vote in that one. That's interesting. All right, those semi-finals are on Sunday in McCool Park at 1:30. It's Naomh Conaill against St Eunans, followed at 3:30 by Gweedore against Kilcar. And with due respect to all the other teams that are in the championship, the best 4 teams probably have come through. These are the teams that finished 1st to 4th in the league campaign as well. So maybe the best 4 have come through. So 1:30, Naomh Conaill, St Eunans. 3:30 Kilcar, Gweedore. Thanks to our sponsors, Kelly Centra here at the Mountain Top. We really appreciate their support for our podcast, and we're getting a great reaction to them. Thanks for that as well. Whether it's negative or positive, we're delighted to get it. Relegation playoffs, Killybegs is the venue for Ardra against Donegal on Saturday at 3 o'clock, and Convoy is the venue for Four Masters against Malin on Saturday evening. The winners of those will stay in the senior championship for next year. The losers will meet in a final relegation playoff. The winners will stay in the championship senior. The losers will go into the intermediate championship. In the intermediate championship, and we've said it all along how tight it's been. Just here's an indication. There was one clear winner at the weekend in the quarterfinals. Rua had a comfortable 2-19 to 8 points victory over Naomh. The other scores were Naomh Columba 3-10, St Naul's 1-18. A 2-point victory for St Naul's, who were 9 points behind at one stage. Naomh Breed 2-10, Red Hughes 1-12, a point in it. And last night, in the rearranged game, Cloughaneely against Naomh Columkill. Cloughaneely 1-10, Naomh Columkill 2-6, 1 points in it. That set up a semi-final pairing of Rua against Cloughaneely in Glenfin and Naomh Breed against St Naul's in Killybegs, both on Saturday and both at 5 o'clock. Francie, It's been tight since the start. It's got tighter as we've gone along. No surprise there. Great quarter-finals there, 3 out of the 4 of them, and a great lineup for the semi-finals.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, intermediate was a very hard competition to win, and I was up at the Conaill game last night, and just Newton just brought everything they possibly could to it, and just, it's brilliant to see teams just giving everything they can, and Conaill are Division 1 team and Newton are Division 3 team, and just, it was brilliant to watch, and it's a bad night for football, but you couldn't fault the endeavour of both teams. Went at it hammer and tong, and Jason McGee kicked the winner for Conaill 3 minutes into stoppage time. It was Conaill be relieved to get over the line, to play Ruan now in the semi-final, but you just have to give credit for Naomh Conaill last week, with the tragedy they come through and stuff like that, and go out and give a performance like that yesterday,
Michael, Conaill Division 1 team, you'd expect them to be favourites, and we've been making them favourites, but it just shows you how tight it is in that intermediate championship. They got a late goal against Naomh Breed in the first game. They got a draw, had to come from behind against Red Hughes. They beat Naomh Ulton fairly comfortably, and again last night they were put to their pin of the collar. But I suppose like Gweedore in the senior championship, they haven't produced what we know they're capable of, but they're still in the semi-final.
Yeah, and it's difficult to carry that perceived favourites tag from a start of a championship campaign the whole way through to the end of it, and they're huffing and puffing and they're getting there. Jason, I think, seems to be slowly but surely coming back into fitness. He came on, I think, to start the second half yesterday. And he'll be a huge player for him. That was kind of evident last night with the 2 points that he kicked. So they'll be hoping to have him available again. I suppose this Saturday, a quick turnaround from them. But as Francie says too, the flip side for Newton to put in the performance, they didn't go so close after the week they've been through is a credit to them. And I think probably looking at it, you have Conaill and Ruan in one semi-final, you'd be thinking they're the two favourites for it. And what an opportunity for St. Knowles then, and Naomh Breed on the other side. Naomh Breed have been tough. They've stuck at it. And St. Knowles came back from, it was a crazy scoreline, 9 down at half time to win that game. So they'll be riding on a high. I was speaking to Pater Morgan, and even Daniel Brennan kicked 7 points to them that day. I was speaking to them last night, and they're really looking forward to it, and they see it as a huge opportunity to get through to an intermediate final against one of the two top teams.
Absolutely, John. Any team come back against Naomh Columba made 9 points down, you have to take them seriously.
Absolutely, Jerry. Like with Glen and the tradition that they have, you would have thought that they were home and hosed at that stage, but to come back, shows a lot of spirit for St. Knowles, and a wee Barry Meehan's in charge of them, and Barry's doing a great job over there. So no, Charlie, as the boys said it, that we've been making Conaill favourites all year just because they're in Division 1. But if I was looking at it now, I think probably the form that Ruan are in, you might fancy Ruan to beat them maybe at the weekend, And then, as the boys said, Naomh Breed in Division 3, but they're giving it their all, and they're sticking, putting it up to everyone, and they've got over the line against Red Hughes, and they'll have nothing to fear, nothing to lose, Charlie. When a team has nothing to lose and they're underdogs, and that's. And they have a good spirit about them, and they're getting the results against the head all the time. They'll be up for it against St. Knowles.
Yeah, Conaill will have to play better because they won't beat Ruan on the form they showed so far. That's fair to say, is it, Francie?
No, but suppose you flip that around, they'll go into this game now as underdogs. Every other game they've been favoured, so they'll go into this game now after their last night's performance. Definitely Ruan are definitely favourites for this game, so they'll come on onto that. There'll be a bit more pressure, and they'll be glad to get that game out of the way. They're probably playing against a team now where they're not really inferior to her. When you said about division, Ruan have been Division 1 last year. You nearly got promoted this year again, so it's kind of a balance there. So Conaill, listen, they're starting to get players back too. Jason's coming back from injury, and he got a half an hour last night. He was 15 minutes the week before, so gradually probably he's up now to 45 minutes in the game, and that'll be a big help to Conaill going forward because Jason's a serious player. And young Fitzgerald's back from a cruciate as well, and he's just getting his up to speed where he's at as well. So that's two big players. They got game time last night as well, so they'll be kicking on with that. But listen, Ruan too, they'll be kicking themselves too. They lost the final last year, and they got lost 2 semi-finals the year before that, so they'll be looking to see this a chance to win it as well, and they'll be knowing that Conaill have been going well, and they'll be looking to kick on.
We talked about Naomh Conaill hurting from the senior championship point of view. If any team should be hurting, should be Ruan from their performance in the intermediate final last year against Glenfin. Now Glenfin were fantastic on the day, but Ruan just didn't. You'd have thought they didn't come through the gap at all, Martin. They were so Michael, they were so poor.
Yeah, and exactly, and they show good potential, I suppose, throughout that championship. And likewise, they're young, they're vibrant, they're racking up some good scores. There's some really, really good score takers there throughout their team, and they'll be looking to really attack and rack up big scores, so it'll be an interesting game going into that Cloughanilly one, and likewise they're bringing off that hurt that they had from last year's intermediate, which I don't think you can underestimate at this club championship level. Any bit of hurt that you can bring from 1 week to the next or from 1 year to the next, you'll battle up.
Good motivation.
It is good motivation, because in general you're playing championship in around October, November time of year. Grounds are wet, things seems to be slippy, and as I say, that extra bit of motivation and the hungrier side normally always comes out on top. So quick turnarounds too, week on week. How will Cloughanilly handle coming out off the back of a Monday, getting ready for a Saturday game will be a tricky one too. So as I say, a big one there, and it'll be interesting to see too, because I say, the 3 championships so far we've been speaking about, the senior, the intermediate and the junior. Yeah, they've been really good. Fantastic. So far, and they've been brilliant, and long may that continue for the last number of weeks.
St Naomh will be on a high after that victory. Will it be too good for Naomh Breed, do you think? Naomh Breed have shown great guts so far, as Michael said, in this championship, John.
And I know they bet Red Hughes at the weekend, and Red Hughes were another Division 3 team, so it's maybe a wee step up for them, but they went close against Cloughanilly. They had Cloughanilly on the racks down in Cloughanilly, so write them off at your peril, Charlie, but St Naomh are bound to take fierce confidence from that comeback the last day and the way to get back into that game and win it at the end, and they'll be buzzing this weekend, and they'll see it as a big chance to get to a final, and then you have every chance in the final. So well, fancy St Naomh's there, but Naomh Breed won't make it easy for them.
Okay, right, who's going to be in the final, Francie?
I think St Naomh's will have too much for Naomh Breed. I think they're forward like Daniel Brennan, Pater Morgan and Stephen Griffin last week, big scores against Glenconkill, so I think St Naomh's are going to get to the final just on their forward play, and I just have a sneaky suspicion for Cloughanilly this year, and I think they'll get to the final with them.
Okay, Michael?
I'll go the other. I'll go Rua and St Naomh's, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
Good man.
I'll go for Rua and St Naomh's too.
Very good. Good to see a difference of opinion. Glenn Finn.
You're keeping note of this?
I'm keeping note of it. Mental note of it. I can assure you, John, if I need to, I will recall it will come back to me.
I want Chris to take Francie's seat for next week.
Saturday at 5 o'clock in Glenfin, it's Rua against Cloughanilly, and at 5 o'clock in Killybegs, Naomh Breed against St Naomh's in a big South Donegal one. And there's one other intermediate game, a relegation playoff, that's between Burt and Naomh Ulton. The losers of that will play Downings. The winners will stay in the intermediate championship. That's in Convoy at 6 o'clock. It's a curtain raiser to that Four Masters Malin game. So that's in Convoy at 6 o'clock. The junior championship, I was at a couple of these quarterfinals at the weekend, I have to say. I really enjoyed both of them. Narossa coming through against Doris, but Buncrana and Letterkenny Yields had big victories over Moville and Cairndonagh, and Convoy were too strong for Muff. But I want to start with the game Narossa against Doris. I know there's been a lot of headlines about the county manager, Michael, playing in goals. And somebody said to me afterwards, the only downside of the game was the double save that Boner made, because we'll never hear the end of it, But I have to say, it was an incredible save, and it summed up Narossa's performance. And before I go to you, I want to pay tribute to a guy called Eamon Boner, who was playing right half back for them. He went over in his ankle in the warm-up. He came up to the dressing room, obviously got a bit of strapping on it, came out then with the tracksuit top and started warming up down along. And I said to him, "What are you doing, Eamon?" "Oh, we're short, we'll have to play, And he got a bang on the ankle 5 minutes into the same ankle 5 minutes into the game, and he got another one in early in the second half. He played every minute, and there was a moment late in the injury time, or extra time, when this ball was dropped in, and this man came out solo on the ball, and who was it but Eamon Boner? And I thought to myself, that sums up the club football championship for me. The guts that he showed. By starting the game, they were short. Young Aidan McHugh, played soccer in the morning, came over, went on just before half time. Declan's playing for 40 years for Narossa, played in goals. It was an incredible victory over a very fancied Uras side, Francie. Was it the performance of the weekend?
Oh, definitely so, and I think there was, as I said last week, there was a kick in maybe Narossa, so... listen, I was just chatting last week to Christian Boner, and he just said that what you were just after saying about the players they have, and they're just on the peripheral of just getting players out, and it just shows too what can be done when you have to do it, and it's great credit to them. It's great for Narossa, and it's great that they're keeping it going.
Great result for them, isn't it? A club that I think they had 1 point after 2 games, and Francie was the only one that hadn't written them off, and they went down to Carndonagh and won by a point, and to get in, but to get to a semi-final.
And they beat Urs. Urs were in the county final.
They were.
So Urs
highly
were highly fancy team. So for Narasa to do that there, and I was chatting to Eamon McGinley from St Michael's. I had it up on Twitter on Saturday. Eamon said that he remembers Declan Bonner playing at 13 for Narasa against Pettigo and Glenfin. That's 41 years ago, Charlie. And someone else replied that in I think 85, Narasa won the intermediate, and Declan was player manager at 25. So to be player manager at 25, got some service, Charlie.
It is.
All credit to him, fair play to him. But no, for the rest, it's not all about Declan. As you say, it's his son's playing. It's for the rest of the boys there that are doing their damnedest just to get a team out, and it's what it's all about, Charlie. You know what I mean? It's St Eunans, we've always plenty of players, thank God, but when you turn around and look at someone like the Rossa who have amalgamated at underage and are doing their best just to keep a team on the field, it's brilliant for them, and all credit for them, Jerry. As you say, it's what it's all about, Jerry, and brilliant for them and fair play to them all.
Have you heard the story from Bonner? Has he magnified it any, Michael, for you?
Couple of times there was a triple save at him. and I got a short kick out of it after.
I can assure you a double save.
No, as I say, brilliant. I say Sean Patton will be quaking in the boots now for next year. But no, I tell you, brilliant for them. And when your back's against the wall like that in a club, and you're looking to, not only put a team out, but you're still trying to keep a club afloat too, and get people enough for positions to keep a board in place and whatnot. That's when you come out fighting, and they've proven that this year. And there's been people that have been just going away, whether it might have been away on a holiday, or there are people coming back. They'll have a few more bodies back, I think, this week from what I'm hearing.
Away at a SAG, I think, last weekend.
I think so. So they'll be back, and it's just this. It does great. We've got to know a good few of them over the last number of years in terms of down in the IT, in terms of Christian Bonner and John McDyer and whatnot, and they're great lads. And they're proud of where they're from. And they're proud of the club, and just good to see.
Absolutely. Well, we better do it. Bonner spoke to Chris afterwards. We're not going to play too long of this interview because it went on for quite some time, as you would expect. But anyway, here was Declan Bonner after that victory for his club, Narasa.
Chris, we didn't expect it, to be quite honest. Last weekend we went down, we got a result down in Carndonagh and probably picked up a bit of momentum from that there. Missed an awful lot of opportunities out there, no doubt about it. We probably should have won the match in normal time, but in fairness, the lads showed great resilience, and in the second half of extra, I thought we deserved on it, Chris, to be quite honest, on the better side. But listen, it was a tough slog out there, no doubt about it.
Donegal manager and Narasa goalkeeper Declan Bonner talking to Chris after the game. Semi-final lineup, we've got Buncrana against Convoy, we've got Letterkenny Gales against Narasa. Despite the fact, Francie, of that performance, they're going to be underdogs again, which will suit them grand. Letterkenny Gales have been impressive so far in the championship.
Yeah, Letterkenny have been impressive, and they got promotion 2 up to Division 3. They're in a crest away there, and they have a good young team coming up through, and this is probably the breakthrough they're looking for. And they have a good forwards as well this weekend, so it'll be a big mountain to climb this week for Narasa. But you just think with Letterkenny Gales forward play that the Letterkenny Gales will get to the final. Yeah.
John, Letterkenny Gales have been building and have a lot of talent out there, and a big commitment from them. A championship victory, a championship final, first of all, would be a big plus for them.
And would be, Charlie, because they've yo-yoed a wee bit this last couple of years. They went up to Division 3 and then they went back down. It would be a big blow for them, because they need to start making a bit of progress. So they've went back down, but they got promoted again this year. I don't think have they won a Junior A championship?
I don't think so. I'm standing to be corrected there.
I'm not sure, Chair, because they're there since '96. They might have won. I'm not sure, but Chair, they need to make progress. You know what I mean? They need to try and win a junior championship. I know they've got the promotion to Division 3, and they probably need to push on there and try and get a bit higher, because they have been putting in good. They're putting in good enough structures at underage. I know further down the line now, underage and that they've got quite strong again. Putting in, they might have taken their eye off the ball a wee bit there, because their underage teams, some of them haven't just been good enough for what probably they should have been. So they have to kick on, Cherry. The town is big enough for 2 clubs. It's possibly big enough for 3 clubs. And we want GAA strong in Letterkenny, so it's up to Letterkenny Gales to push on themselves. So I think, as Francie says, O'Donnell Park, the big pitch. They are fast, they are young. Shea Doherty there and young McBurty up front. There's some good forwards. You would have had him in under 20s, Francie, and they're decent players. So they probably will have a wee bit too much from the roster at the weekend, and then it's up to them, Charlie. if they get to final, they'll be up against probably Buncrana, who are the favourites, or Convoy, who've got promoted to Division 2. So it's not going to be easy for them, Charlie,
Absolutely
to win a junior championship, but they really need to.
Yeah, Michael, Buncrana, a lot of lads there, county colleagues and guys you've had at the IT as well. They've been strong favourites for the junior championship since it started, and there's no indication that we should take that title away from them because they have been impressive.
They have done, and you look throughout their whole championship campaign so far this year. You have the likes of Keelan McGonigal and John Campbell. Darragh O'Connor's back, as well as Ryan Bradley have been added back into the mix in recent weeks too. So I think as a club, getting that demotion last year has hit them hard. From speaking to Paul McGonigal and even speaking to Malik McCann, who's down there and over them. They want to get back up quickly, and they want to get back up fairly sharpish this year. And I suppose the only way to do that now is to win this junior championship. As I say, they're putting in a big push, a big effort again. And for a club and for the town the size of Buncrana, the whole of Donegal really need to be seeing them back up at a level in intermediate. But likewise, Convoy have had a great year so far. They're in huge territory, and likewise with Convoy, Letterkenny Gales and Buncrana, they've had a year-long good year, and so far as they've been going really, really well on the leagues right throughout and into the championship. So they'll be carrying serious momentum, and one that Buncrana wouldn't need to be taken lightly. Yeah.
I saw Convoy down in Burt on Sunday morning against Muff. Impressive, big, strong team. Muff put it up to them for a good while in the game, but Muff just couldn't get enough scores. Convoy probably a bit disappointed with the return they had. I did an interview with Lawrence afterwards, and he felt that, it was okay, but they dropped a lot of balls into the keeper's hands. He kicked some bad wides, and he got away with it. They're playing Buncrana on Saturday in O'Donnell Park. They won't get away with it against them, Francie. They'll have to improve that aspect of it.
Yeah, and definitely, me chatting to Lawrence himself there, he was telling me that they've lost 5 players since they got promoted, 5 players out of their senior team. They've lost them, and that's a lot of players to be lost in the year starting 15. And it's a big ask this week against Buncrana because, listen, the firepower Buncrana have, with, Jiggers back now and he's going well, and John Campbell, and even young Ben Bradley, Ryan's brothers, another good player as well for Buncrana. Convoy's definitely going to be up against it this week. But listen, Convoy, Paddy Dolan's going well for them at the minute, and young Joe McGill, he's good at the freeze, So listen, they'll make a game of it, but I just think Buncrana will be a bit too strong for them.
Concur with that, John?
Possibly, Charlie, but I suppose from Convoy's point of view, losing them 5 players is going to be a massive blow to them because, on all form, Charlie, with, Convoy getting promoted and being on that great run and confidence up, alright, we've all talked about Buncrana probably because there's a few county players and they have gone down, which was a big thing, down to junior football, but they're going to be in a tight battle against Convoy, and I wouldn't rule Convoy out, Charlie. I think it'll be closer than people think.
Good double header at O'Donnell Park. 3 o'clock for Buncrana and Convoy, 5 o'clock for Letterkenny Gales and Narossa at O'Donnell Park. Just to give you the fixtures for the Senior B, they're both in Glenswally on Saturday, 12:30 Glenfin versus St Eunans, and 2:30 it's Naomh Conaill against Kilcar. Interestingly, Gweedore, the odd team out there, St Eunans, Kilcar and Naomh Conaill, reserve teams getting through to the semi-finals as well. Intermediate semi-finals, Intermediate B, it is, Glenfin, 3 o'clock, a curtain raiser to the Arua Cloughanilly game. Arua against Red Hughes in Intermediate B. Saturday at 12:30, Cloughanilly St Naomh. We haven't had a venue for that confirmed as yet. Termon ladies, Francie, I don't want to finish without not mentioning them. Through to an Ulster semi-final. Apparently a very impressive performance, according to Chris, at the weekend.
Yeah, very, very good performance, and listen, they needed a big performance, that was a good Armagh team, they had 7 or 8 county Armagh ladies playing, so listen, it was a big result, listen, they have another home game now, which was the bonus. If they won the game, they're going to get another home game. And listen, when you get home games and when you're playing in Ulster, it's a big help, So listen, they're not going to get it easy. The next day, it's playing Ryan McMenamin's team, the Fermanagh manager. He's involved with him. So it's Tyrone champions, McCartans is their name. So they're a good team as well, and they've been in couple of last Ulster finals, so it'll be a big game for them, and they'll need all the performance.
I know what you're going to say, John. You're winking at me here. Ryan McMenamin is showing the decent on the sideline.
Exactly, Charlie. Took the words from your mouth.
It's a mind-boggling scenario.
It's a box office, Charlie. For what time's that game?
Well, unfortunately, Sean Reeson's suspended, so Sean.
Still? I know he was suspended for the last
so Sean's
game.
suspended, so Sean will. But I'm sure that'll not stop Sean.
He'll be close.
He'll be close by anyway.
Very close.
You know.
So Michael, you keep a close eye. Some talent in that tournament team, some talent in ladies football in Donegal. But Sean the Decent's got them organised, and they're at it this year again. Tournament.
Fair play to them, hey, and as I say, any team, and I know we keep harbouring on the point. Any team with Geraldine McLaughlin on it, like, is just going to be tough to stop. Like, seeing her up close and personal in some of the games, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Just incredible, some of the things and the feats that she manages. So fair play to them, and then say any team that gets through to us, the whole county's behind them, and likewise will be again, you know. Yeah,
I better go back just to the junior boys and just make a call on who's going to make the final, John.
I'm going for Letterkenny Gales, and I'll go for Convoy as an outside bet.
Okay, Francie.
Letterkenny Gales and Buncrana.
Yeah, likewise with Francie.
Okay.
I'll stick Letterkenny Gales, Buncrana.
LYIT, Michael, you're back in action next week again. Great year last year with the league and the Trench Cup, of course, and thankfully you played some very good attacking football despite the encouragement from some of your backroom team not to do so. A step up this year. What's the player situation like this year?
So far, we're 2 weeks into it now. At the moment, we have 2 Mondays. It's been a juggling act, so I suppose, so far as trying to get all the new fellas back in and integrated, and then there's still a lot of players that seem to be playing in the latter stages of club championship here in Donegal, at junior, intermediate, and senior. So, as I say, we'll be letting them to continue on ahead with their clubs as much as they can now, and hopefully they keep going on. And it's just not probably ideal for us going into next Wednesday's game against Jordanstown already. We'll be massive underdogs. Without
That's at home, Michael, is it?
First 2 games are at home against Jordanstown and Queens, and then our last game is away then to St Mary's, then to John's alma mater here. So hopefully John will be giving me all the hints and tips that's going on.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Mary's, you know.
Where's those 2 home games going to be played?
At the moment, it's looking like 2 Wednesdays and Convoy in the Centre of Excellence under lights.
Oh, excellent.
So that seems to be where it's at the moment.
That's next Wednesday and the following Wednesday weekend.
Yeah. 2 Wednesdays against Jordanstown and Queens. So look forward to getting back up and running. As I say, we'll get in through the league and then hopefully and around after Christmas play Sigerson for the first time in the college history.
Super. Well, we wish you well with that. John, just summarise for us the championship so far. Has it been everything we expected, or more or less, would you say?
I know, Terry, it probably has. I know slow starting in the groups for maybe a wee bit. You know, the favourites were always going to come out of the groups. But Terry, the way it's been run off so fast and so quick, people forget about that in the games. You're just looking forward to the next game all the time, and maybe a man might be injured or a team might have got a man suspended or whatever. So it's something to chat about in the next game's coming, and who's going to ref it and where's it going to be and will it suit us and you know what. So it's great, Terry. It's brilliant for the profile of the club, and we can see that actually that the boys were on TV, which is great for them. You know, when Donegal football's right up there at the minute, Terry. And you know, in fairness, we might have given out about the county CCC last week, but you know, to put a double header on this week, I think is brilliant. You know, very easy. Could have had 2 games.
I was going to say, John, because I was talking to Frankie a couple of times, Frankie Doherty, who's looking after that side of it, organising the way things have with the double headers and getting venues and all that sort of. I mean, it is difficult at this time of year. The clubs have cooperated brilliantly, and to their credit, I think we all were hugely impressed with this programme that they were just when you were going in the gate to the first game last weekend with all the teams. Now they weren't. All the teams didn't feel as announced, but most of them were as close as they possibly could. It's a great help for the media, and I think the spectators as well. It shows that, you know, great respect. So well done to the CCC.
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Okay. All right, lads, that's it. Michael, Charlie Boyle told me one time that you hadn't made it until you opened the Churchill Fair. So I opened the Churchill Fair, so that meant I made it. So I know you've been on RT lately, but you didn't make it until you got on this podcast with these 2 boys. And thankfully, hopefully, we might see you back next week with us, Michael, as we look forward to the final. Thanks for coming on today. Francie and John, as always, thanks for your input. Thanks to Tommy here at Full Tilt Studios for looking after us. Thanks to Marcin Kelly and his staff at Centra here in the Mountaintop for their support. We'll be back next week to look back over the semi-finals and forward to the intermediate finals, because the senior teams will get a wee bit of a break of 2 weeks before the final, but there'll still be plenty to talk about next weekend. Rejoin us then. Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.